Therefore, it is important that the courts must not look at each of these goods and try and find out differences between the plaintiff's and the defendant's products or trademarks. It is important for the court to only look at the distinctive part of the trademark, understand what the consumer is likely to have remembered, and then consider whether a consumer will get confused or not. To understand what are the kinds of similarities that can be seen, the courts have held that the visual and phonetic similarity between the marks must be seen. That is, whether visually the two trademarks are similar or they sound the same. Over the years, the courts have also developed a test for similarity of ideas between two marks. This means that even though a trademark may not be visually or phonetically similar to a previously registered trademark, it might have the same idea. Let me give you an example. For instance, if a brand of malt chocolate powder has a sporting logo on its packaging, that is, it shows people playing football on its packaging. Now another person comes and introduces another malt chocolate powder and shows a similar logo wherein the dress of the football players is different and the way they are represented is different, but the idea that people are playing football is copied. The courts have said that in such a case, it is quite likely that consumers will only remember the fact that there is a logo consisting of people playing football. Consumers may not really remember the color of the football players or their position on the football field, etc. Therefore, even if the idea of a trademark is captured and is copied by a defendant, it may be considered trademark infringement. Now, the courts have also evolved the rule of anti-dissection of trademarks. First, to understand the concept of anti-dissection, you need to understand the concept of composite marks. Quite often, you would find marks that are composite in nature, that is, they have some distinctive part and some non-distinctive parts. When I say distinctive, distinctive means distinctive to the trademark owner, that is, it immediately leads the consumer to associate a particular mark with a particular source of goods. When I say non-distinctive part of a trademark, it means those parts which belong to the world. For instance, if I say Tata Steel as a trademark, Tata is the distinctive part of the trademark, steel is the non-distinctive part of the trademark, because steel is a generic word which anyone is allowed to use. When you consider such composite marks, courts have also evolved the principle of anti-dissection. The principle of anti-dissection means that while considering a composite mark, courts cannot break down these marks into the distinctive part and the non-distinctive part. In fact, the courts have said that the mark must be considered as a whole, and the effect of the mark on the consumer must be considered as a whole when the marks of the plaintiff and the defendant are being compared. Also, with respect to composite marks, the copying of the distinctive features of the mark is relevant. That is, it is also required to be seen whether what the defendant has taken is the essential or the distinctive feature of the mark. A defendant, of course, is allowed to use the non-distinctive feature. But again, it is important to note that the overall effect of the mark has to be taken into account. Another very important aspect of trademark infringement is that no amount of added matter is relevant. This means that even if the defendant has added a prefix or a suffix showing that it is different from the plaintiff, the court will still say that this added matter is insufficient to dispel consumer confusion, and thus it still amounts to infringement of a trademark. Please do remember that this rule of added matter is only applicable to infringement of a trademark and not to passing off. We will deal with this aspect in detail later. Now let's move on to certain examples. The examples of a marks which have been held to be similar include Glucovita and Gluvita. You will see that these marks Glucovita and Gluvita are both phonetically and visually similar. Similarly, the mark Rasmola and Hajmola have been held to be similar. Here, this visual similarity and the phonetic similarity is not very apparent, but considering the class of consumers who would consume such products, it is quite likely that they would remember the term mola, and that is the descriptive part of the trademark which they might remember, which might cause consumer confusion. Another interesting case is one of collector's choice and officer's choice. In this case, the plaintiff did not have rights over the mark's choice. It was the proprietor of the trademark's officer's choice. If you look at it, officer and collector are not visually or phonetically similar. However, in this case, the Delhi High Court said that there was a similarity in the idea of an officer and a collector, and a collector in fact was a type of an officer. Thus, based on the concept of similarity of idea of a trademark, the court held that the mark officer's choice and collector's choice are similar to each other. Let's now move on to examples of trademarks which have held not to be similar. First is Prima Sport and Prima Mark. Here in this case, the court said that the plaintiff did not have the right over the trademark Prime, and otherwise the Primark and Prime Sport sound and look very different. Another example is Piquant and Picot, and another one is Timo Get and Timo Chem. One might wonder why the marks Timo Get and Timo Chem were held to be dissimilar. It is important to note that both these trademarks were used for pharmaceuticals and were derived from the active pharmaceutical substance which is used with respect to the pharmaceutical. Therefore, since Timo related to the active pharmaceutical substance, it could not be distinctive of the plaintiff and could have been used by the defendant as well. And the remaining part, Chem and Get, were clearly dissimilar. Therefore, even though the anti-dissection rule applies, it is important to note that the defendant is always allowed to copy the non-distinctive features of a trademark.